If your skin is still feeling dry right after you moisturize it, you're not alone. This is a very common question and issue that I get from my clients. You wanted to know the difference between moisturizing and hydrating your skin. So we're going to talk about the difference between the two and talk about hot topics like beef tallow in this video, what you can do to address it, and the do's and don'ts. So let's get into it. I'm so excited to get into this topic. It is something that we can really talk about for forever. Grab that pen and paper if you haven't already, and be sure to check out my resources below. I've launched a couple ebooks in the past couple weeks. I've also been announcing that I'm going to be launching a new resource on March 18th, so mark your calendars for that. Email me if you want to join my early bird list, and as well as we're having an in-person training in September of 2025. Email me if you're interested in any of that. We need to know that this is something that you guys want. Let's get into hydration versus moisturization. Both moisturizing and hydrating your skin, I want to make very clear right off the bat, are equally important for all skin types. I know that there is a misconception sometimes for people who may be more oily or more acne prone. This topic is still very important for you to understand, and we're going to break it down. So we're going to talk about this in a few different chapters per usual. We're going to define what hydrating your skin and moisturizing your skin looks like and the definition of that, as well as ingredients that can do these things, and then the overall do's and don'ts. There's things that you can do in your skincare routine that will address this, and then there's also some lifestyle things and other things to consider that could be contributing to your dehydrated or dry skin. Talking about hydration versus moisturization, I want you to think of hydration as when you are conditioning your hair. We know that it softens and it hydrates the hair. And then I want you to think about moisturizing your skin as then putting your hair, after you've conditioned it, into a shower cap or a cap that kind of really locks it all in. But I just want you to think of that visually when you are thinking about hydrating your skin versus moisturizing, because hydrating it is going to be hydrating it from within, hydrating the skin at the cellular level. Think of maybe a hard sponge that doesn't have any moisture in it. It gets all tough and rough, right? So that's when the skin is lacking hydration. Moisturizing the skin is going to be giving your skin kind of that substitute skin barrier, like a shower cap or a plastic wrap, help lock in moisture. Hope that that analogy makes sense to just give you a better understanding of what the difference is between the two. The types of ingredients that I do feel like are most commonly seen in skincare products. So there's three main categories that I feel like aim to hydrate or moisturize the skin, and those categories are emollients, humectants, and occlusives. And we're going to get into the differences between the three, but again, we're going to start off with some analogies. So I want you to think of a humectant, and back to that sponge analogy. The humectant acts as water. So when you put water onto a sponge, what happens? It gets absorbed, it gets into all those cracks and crevices in the sponge, and then it plumps it up and hydrates it. Examples of a humectant would be hyaluronic acid or glycerin. Hyaluronic acid can actually hold up to 1,000 times its weight in water. So it's going to be pulling moisture from the environment, it's going to be pulling moisture from the deeper layers of the skin, and therefore then plumping up that skin cell. And that is what a humectant does. Let's get into emollients. So emollients are going to be, like we explained earlier, about a conditioner. So it's going to add more hydration, give the skin a smoother texture. It's going to make it feel softer. Ingredients like shea butter, ceramides, squalane, and then this is where that beef tallow would be put into the emollient category. A lot of emollients are very similar to, we talked about in my other video, that ceramides make up a lot of the skin barrier structure. shower. So we're just going to be simply adding back into the skin what it kind of naturally already is composed of by using emollients on the skin. And then last but not least, occlusives. So occlusives are going to be a lot heavier when you think about them. So this is going to be more like that plastic wrap, that shower cap that you put on to kind of lock everything in. And so examples of occlusives would be mineral oil, coconut oil, petroleum, beeswax, soybean oil. I mean, a lot heavier of an ingredient, but is it effective at locking in hydration and creating a barrier to keep moisture into the skin? Absolutely. A great skincare routine is going to be combining all three of these elements. Now, of course, depending on what your skin type is and skin conditions, your environments, all of those things really are going to factor into which ingredients and products you should be using on your skin. And that's where I definitely want you to consult with a professional. The skin can actually change throughout our life, and I've been seeing that a lot in my clients. I always like to say about every 10 years, I find that your skin changes for whatever reason. It could be due to hormones. It could be due just to the aging process. You're just losing moisture naturally to your skin because it's just not able to hold it as much. We learned that in the skin barrier video as well. Your skin cells just stop losing its function, so it's not going to be holding moisture as well. Even the size of your pores tends to change as you age. For some it gets smaller, and for some they actually enlarge. It doesn't actually mean that your skin is getting more oily. It could still be getting more dehydrated as you age, and that's what we commonly see. I mean, there's always the exceptions to those rules and findings, but for the most part we see a lack of moisture happening in the skin as we age. Another thing that can cause dehydration or dryness in the skin is medical conditions. So we chatted again about this in the skin barrier video. See how these all tie together if you don't notice a theme here in this skincare fundamentals for estheticians series. Everything ties together. So even my last video too about AHAs and BHAs, we'll touch on that in just a second, but everything is kind of like in this wheel trying to balance because it all matters. It really does. There's not just like one thing you can do to your skin that's gonna just magically fix it. It's got to be a balance of all of these things. So that's why I keep referring back to the other videos, because it all ties together. When you're thinking about medical conditions, there's conditions like eczema or psoriasis or atopic dermatitis, and even medical conditions like diabetes, and maybe you're on a certain medication that is sucking out moisture from your skin. Be sure to consult with your doctor if you are experiencing any of these things. Hopefully, your esthetician can also give you some advice about that as well. You could have an imbalance of either over exfoliating the skin or under exfoliating it, and I'll explain both of them. Over exfoliating, I think we kind of know we're over stripping the skin. Over scrubbing or over exfoliating using too harsh of percentages of AHAs or BHAs. We chatted about what those are in the other video, so I'm not going to dive too deep into that. But if we're using an excess amount of exfoliators, that could be stripping oils from our skin. And so if you're already a dry skin type, I would highly recommend you consider using a different type of exfoliator. Maybe staying away from, actual physical scrubs and using enzymes. Stay away from salicylic acid and glycolic acid. Those tend to be more stripping and harsher on the skin, and trying to stick with acids like lactic acid or mandelic acid. And then on the flip side is not exfoliating enough. A lot of people with oily or acneic skin tend to think, okay, I'm not going to moisturize too much, or I'm not going to exfoliate too much. When again, that could be actually doing the exact opposite. You'll definitely still want to exfoliate. You just want to modify. Again, it's that fine line of not doing it too much or not doing it too little. And lastly, your environment. You could be in a climate that either promotes more dehydration in the skin or more oiliness in the skin. The temperature, the amount of humidity in the air could determine this. I'm not going to get too much into specific products. A lot of the products I think I would recommend I've already talked about in my last two videos, and there's some lifestyle changes that you can make that could improve this as well. I know for us esties watching this, it might be like a no-brainer to recommend this, but I've actually very commonly been asked this by clients who just really don't know much about skincare. I always tell them that it's important to have, again, both hydration and moisturization in your routine. Hydration is going to come from what I believe in a serum or a concentrate. Molecularly, it is going to be a lower molecular weight that is going to penetrate deeper into the skin. And typically we see this in serums. We see ingredients like hyaluronic acid. A lot of the time too, you'll see products that have a combination of humectants, emollients, and occlusives. More commonly emollients and occlusives. And that's where I want to mention really quickly about the beef tallow, because from my research, I've seen that beef tallow is kind of, it's definitely not considered a humectant, but it is considered an emollient because it is going to be more similar to the actual sebum and composition of your skin barrier and skin. And then it's going to be helping to seal in those humectants. But again, use caution when using beef tallow because it can be known to be pore clogging for some skin types. I know I've heard amazing things about it from some people and not so amazing things from some people. So what I recommend is, you could try it out, maybe patch test it on your skin and make sure that it is from a good resource. It's not just straight up beef tallow from the supermarket, okay? I recommend that you ideally get it from somewhere that is packaging it properly and formulating it for your skin specifically. This is a common rule that we are taught in esthetician school, even just DIY skincare, just proceed with caution. But if it works for you, it works for you, and I can't argue with you on that. But I still would recommend that you use a hydrating serum to be a humectant in the skin. You're gonna wanna layer on your serum first, then you're gonna put the moisturizer or emollient or occlusive on top of that. Now, the occlusive should be the very last product that you put on your skin. Now, I don't really honestly know a lot of people whose skin does really, really well with occlusives. I mean, I would recommend a facial oil over a petroleum jelly or coconut oil. Those tend to be very heavy on the skin. So unless you were literally just cracked and super extremely dry, then maybe you could try those out. But I think that just starting out with a shea butter moisturizer with something that's just not going to necessarily clog your pores and that it's not going to feel greasy. I know jellies and oils tend to feel real greasy on the skin. Determine what skin type you are, and then that'll help you kind of determine from there what kind of moisturizer that you should use. But I typically like using moisturizers that have ingredients like shea butter. Another ingredient that I really love to use is squalene. It just feels so nice and luxurious on the skin. I never have experienced any breakouts with products that moisturize with squalene. Other things that can make a difference that you might not think of are just limiting the use of hot water on your skin. I know I'm guilty of this. I take long hot showers, so if you are experiencing dryness or dehydration in your skin, I definitely would recommend that you limit your showers to 5 or 10 minutes. Hot water is going to remove oil more than cold water does. Another thing to consider is your diet. The amount of caffeine that you're consuming can definitely affect the hydration levels of your skin, and just eating more essential fatty acids like found in fish or nuts. I mean, there's tons of great food that contains all these natural oils that can contribute to your skin. I mean, of course, you could take some supplements as well. Just make sure it's the right supplement for you and that it's ideally more of a natural supplement. Another lifestyle thing I think is common is smoking and vaping. Those definitely have an impact on the hydration levels of your skin, and not even just the hydration of your skin, but the appearance of your skin. So I would definitely consider that if you're somebody who's really struggling with the hydration level of your skin, to cut out the smoking, because that definitely has an impact. And last but not least, less sun exposure and then drinking more water. I know I get that question a lot. Does drinking more water really help? Yes, it does to an extent, but like I said before, there's not one magic trick that you can do to automatically just have healthier and more plump skin. It all works together. So yes, drinking water is a part of that wheel, but is it gonna fix dry skin? No. Does it help? Yes. So especially if you are older, maybe add a cup or two more a day, because you're already more prone to having more dehydrated and dry skin as you age. If you have anything to add or experiences and knowledge you want to share, feel free to pop it down below. And I will see you guys back here next week for a new one. And until then, stay safe, and I'll see you then. Bye.